In most situations, it is best and smartest to keep the peace. So, what does that exactly mean? It means what it says. It means to do the action or the move that will cause the least amount of drama and keep things just smooth. Keep things just non-escalated. Calm. Nice. Why? Why do I have to swallow my pride? It's because of the worth. And in most situations, the amount of chaos that is caused from not keeping the peace is just not worth, because of the consequences that it will bring, because it's not worth what the situation really is in the first place. So let me just get some obvious statements out of the way here. What are things that you should keep the peace for? Whenever someone in your family, parent, grandparent, cousin, uncle, aunt, great uncle, if they tell you to do something, if they give you life lesson, if they do this or that and it pisses you off, or if they don't fully understand, like for example, they think you did something or whatever, if it's not that major, the best, like the thing that if they're accusing you of something so small, it's always good to swallow your pride and just keep the peace. If it is something more major that could be consequential, if you keep your mouth shut, for example, your family thinks that you robbed a gas station, then of course don't keep the peace. Speak up and say, I did not rob that gas station. I could tell you I was here, that, blah, 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 whatever. But it is usually good to keep the peace with most situations. If somebody at work tells you to do something and yells at you or something, what do? You keep the peace. You just say, okay, you don't escalate it any further, because what's that worth? That is not really worth much anything. If they think that you're being bad at your job, but you're not bad at your job, it's not really worth it to say anything. Even if it means like a potential path to promotion or whatever, if the person knows your true worth and if you're truly good at your job, you don't have to worry about that. All right. Here's some really crucial times that you need to put in a word for yourself and not keep the peace and stand up for something. Here's one thing. If your parents are trying to decide what major you're going to school for, even if they do pay for it, if you do not like that major, if you know you're going to be miserable in that, I want you to stand your ground and say, I would rather do this. And if that means for them to not do funding on it, then it's really just up to you what you want to do. Maybe you would just rather take the free scholarship to something you don't exactly like, but you have to sit here and remember, is this really, like, am I fine with doing this in my life? Am I really going to be extremely miserable? Because of course you want to use your degree. If you know for a strong fact, like for example, I know for a strong fact, I absolutely do not want to be a doctor. I would never let my parents make me be a doctor. Fortunately, they are not. But you have to ask yourself, am I fine with this? Am I fine with this? Does this really matter? Am I okay with this? Now, there are some situations where you may not be okay with a certain outcome happening because you decided to keep the peace by not saying anything. So then now you regret it because your parents or whoever is in the situation does not know the truth. Well, if it's, like I said, even if you do feel that way, if you feel I should say something, remember, always weigh the situation too. You have to, I'm just saying, repeating these words again so you guys can remember, weigh the situations too. Weigh what is going on. How valuable is it? Is it really valuable whether my one grandparent knows or does not know that I truly made it to work on time this one day or not? Well, it does not really matter for something like that, because how is that going to affect everything? Probably not much at all. They're probably just going to be like, oh, I'm annoyed by this person, I'm annoyed by my grandson here, even though that grandson didn't actually do that. But like I said, that's not a big situation. I do want to tell you something. In 99% of situations, when it comes to anybody in your family who has an authority figure over you, grandparents or parents, always treat them with respect, and a little bit more respect, well, a lot more than you'd show your friends. Well, a bit more, because I assume you show your friends respect. With family members, it really just, it's harder to correct them because it's ruder and it looks more out of place. Like if you're correcting them over small things, or if you are trying to say that you did not or did do this, and they're insistent that you, well, opposite of what truly happened, if they're just like stuck in that mindset, you don't want to cause a whole scene. Now, different humans have different feelings about this, but generally when it comes to your parents, you also have to remember that that they're not really your equal. They have authority over you, so it's not like they are a friend. Your equal is someone who is your friend, or... Who gave me this? 213 orange. I forget who gave me that. There's no way I got that myself. What number is this? 161! Who gave me these balls? I didn't even know I had them sitting on this base. But, I mean, when I got them at the time, I knew they were important, so I just chucked them in here. There's no chance that any of them escape, because there's only 2 doors. Like, I highly doubt that. You have to go through obstacles just to get there. But, geez, that's crazy. 1878, which is pretty good for this line. And then a 75,148. When you become an adult, those boundaries seem to come down a little bit if you are an adult and you live in your own place and you're your own functioning human being without support on anybody who has an authority figure over you in your family. But yeah, when you're an adult, you start to be able to have like a better relationship. When you're like I said, when you're an adult with and by the way, these balls, do not worry, I'm putting them like in between here so that they don't have any chance of like rolling off. Like there's all these other presents stopping them. But back to what I was saying, I'm just gonna destroy this. I don't want to keep seeing that there. You still have to remember that they are parents at the end of the day, so they still have at least some of that authority over you. But that's how it works. If there's a situation where somebody gives you an ultimatum, usually it is best to, like, for example, if somebody gives you an ultimatum by saying, if you don't do this, then I will stop being in your life, and you really need them in your life or want them in your life, whatever, usually the person giving the ultimatum is the one that's in the wrong. Let me explain. If there's an ultimatum based upon a bad habit that you have that is destroying your relationship with someone, then listen to the person who gives the ultimatum and listen to the ultimatum. If a family member is giving you an ultimatum about a romantic partner, saying you're not allowed to marry this person, but if you do, then we're not going to be in your life anymore. Now, you have to think of what are the reasons they say that. Are they mostly saying stereotypical things and that the person cannot control and should not be judged over? Or are they saying actual things like the person actually does have extremely bad and toxic habits and they're trying to protect you? You have to see it for yourself. You have to see, you have to think about, what are my parents saying, or whoever? Is this factually correct? Now, sometimes parents can be a little delusional in their old-fashioned ways. This happens very often. So that is why I say sometimes you have to go against the people giving the ultimatum. Even though it is hard, my personal and true opinion is that if they're going to have an issue with something that does not need to have an issue out of, and you just want to be happy, choose the path of happiness. When it comes to a romantic partner situation, especially choose a romantic partner if your parents are stuck in old school ways, because it is extremely difficult to find a relationship. I want to say one thing here, and I want you guys to remember this. And I realized this a few months back, and it's really moving. Now, as for the people in your life, there's some people you choose, and there's some people you do not choose. The people that you choose are your friends, basically who you hang out with, and your romantic partner. You do not choose your coworkers, so you don't necessarily have to be friends with them if you don't want to be. Or, for another example, your family. You absolutely do not choose your family. Your family is just a random sample, all right? Not everybody in my family is actually, I wouldn't even consider everybody in my family has a good mind, a good heart, and living their life the way that Jesus would want them to. Not everybody in my family is like that, unfortunately. Now, I'm not going to sit here and judge them, but I'm just trying to simply give an example. Just because I try to live my life, and I'm not perfect either, but just because I am on the right track does not mean that everybody else in my family is as well. In society, people really judge other people sometimes based on how the family acts. And that makes sense, but you can't always do that because you don't choose your family. You really don't. I mean, someone could judge you based on the friends that you choose to hang out with in certain scenarios, of course. Usually whenever somebody has a friend and their friend has a bad habit, usually you don't get associated with that, which is good. Thank goodness. But the thing is that, for example, if your friends are like doing something mean and you're not standing up for the victim, you should really stand up for the victim. That's my opinion. Even if it does cause a little bit of chaos, you need to stand up and do the right thing. Try your best to stand up and do the right thing. Trust me. It's better to stand with Jesus than to stand with a bunch of people who are just there, just use you as their friend because they think you're cool or they get something out of you. I don't know. Guess who else you don't even choose? You don't even choose who your children are. I mean, you don't even choose the freaking gender. Like, you know, you hear all those people going, I want a boy, I want a girl, and then they don't get what they want, blah, blah, blah. So there's proof of that, but it's kind of an obvious thing. What I'm basically trying to say is that you cannot fully act like you need to spend time with your entire family. Now, of course, what do I say? You should like go to family gatherings. Like if there's some extended family members you don't like, still go out and see them. You only see them once in a while. That's fine. I mean, it's still fun to see them. Why not? Why not? And it's very polite and respectful. But what I'm basically trying to say is like if like a close family member or further family member, does not matter, gets so corrupt and starts and you just know it, you see it, and their way of thinking is not changing and it is becoming toxic to be a part of their life, you don't owe anything to them because you did not choose them to be in your life.